maybe not more of a top tier, but Kirby's definitely a...
Speak for yourself.
He's a rounder, sometimes flatter.
You cannot tell me that Yoshi is a more well-rounded character than Kirby.
It's very arguable. I think that Kirby wins a lot of the time in that argument.
Depending on your definition. Well,
and here we are going to see actually the Pikachu, not the Yoshi or the Kirby, but honestly, all three of them I think will be all right. I actually think Yoshi's the one I would be least inclined to want to see, just because I feel like Yoshi versus Wolf can be a bit of a slog for Yoshi sometimes. You get that big back air, break the double jump hard. It's suddenly one of Yoshi's biggest strengths becomes.
And so I think that, you know, when you look at it in this way, you know, you have the Pikachu up against the Wolf that AZ's bringing. You're talking about a character that has a pretty flowcharted recovery in Wolf, and any character that can take advantage of it might as well be Pikachu.
Right, Wolf's biggest weakness is his recovery as a character. It's not even like that bad because his air drift is so good and he doesn't have mix-ups available, but it is one of the biggest weaknesses of this character. You know, when you're talking about top tiers, you kind of always grasp at straws for what the thing is. Wolf, very strong character, struggles off stage. Pikachu is definitely the one who should have. This is probably one of the worst matchups Wolf will run into in this bracket.
But that being said, you know, you look at the way that things are playing out right now, AZ's got the lead, you know, by a pretty wide margin, and that's because Danbi hasn't been getting the Wolf off the stage yet so far, right? We've just been seeing a whole lot of on-stage interaction, and in fact, if anything, Danbi's the one going off stage constantly.
Exactly, and while Wolf is still on stage, he's still a phenomenal character. He has great buttons to box Pikachu, because Pikachu doesn't have the fastest, or biggest limbs. Is pretty quick with it, but having to contest with like Wolf Nair, Wolf Forward Air, given the range on that, like, good luck, and the dash deck coming through to catch Danbi on the way up. Now 2 stocks clean to 1.
Yeah, despite losing that, you know, despite losing that first stock, not getting to open up a 2-stock lead, yeah, AZ is certainly still in control. The only thing that he really needs to do right now is, you know, kind of think about, okay, how do I deny Danbi's combo starters, right? How do I deny his ability to open me up and get those quick stocks? And getting stuck into the corner like we just saw, maybe with that jab lock as well, he's looking like he's in danger of losing that big lead he worked so hard to build up.
Chasing him all the way down and barely doesn't get the edge guard there. Great maneuverability from AZ, but look at the percent that's been piled on, just continually trying to get back to the stage puts you in these kinds of situations. Now we really could see one more confirm, maybe like an up throw thunder if he'll connect right now, or just an up smash if he finds the opportunity. You know, on Danbi's end, could really bring this close, but wow, just 2 or 3 hits, and Wolf already feels like he is a little bit more comfortable now. He's got another stock to play with, 100% on Danbi and climbing.
I would certainly not call this, you know, over by any means. I would not say that Wolf has got this, but, you know, you have to know as the Pikachu player, yeah, you're about 1 hit from death at this point. Wolf is one of those few characters in Ultimate that can just kind of eventually kill you. Pikachu, of course, does have that as well because he's got reliable kills like that up throw and the dash attack that he lacked in previous titles. But to get to that point, you have to work pretty hard as the Pikachu player. And, man, Danbi, at 120%, he's got to be precise to get it.
But one thing that Danbi definitely has, and I feel like I see that out of every player who's ever touched Yoshi before in their life, just has a level of clutch where they can bring things back, but unfortunately not enough of a clutch factor to take that game back. The simple, clean play from AZ, a lot of anti-airs like that up tilt that we saw coming through, really punishing Danbi for trying to be too proactive with it without the Thunder Jolt to back it up, and he really made that happen, made him go for some of those awkward jump-ins, because he was playing around Thunder Jolt really well with his reflector as well. So, like, good on AZ, really on top of this matchup.
Yeah, I think that actually a lot of that, you know, like you're saying, came down to how the aerial game was picked apart by AZ. I think that early on there was just a whole lot of Danbi trying to, you know, get the Wolf off the stage and playing defensively, and because he would keep going near the edge of the stage or going onto a platform, he'd have to jump over the Wolf eventually, and AZ was utilizing those excellent anti-airs. And then later in the game, when Danbi was trying to get a little bit more aggressive with those aerial approaches, and like I was saying, those combo starters that you have to look out for, a lot of those come from aerials for Pikachu, and I think that AZ did a great job of scouting out, okay, as long as I can just land 1 solid hit, I can win this game, so I'll just strike when the opportunity is perfect, and he found it.
Yeah, and I also noticed he was doing a good job of not just anti-airs, but air-to-airs as well. In this matchup, Wolf has phenomenal air. I mean, in every matchup he has phenomenal aerials, but specifically in this one, his aerials do a great job of trading competing with like any multi-hits that Pikachu's got. Kirby does have some multi-hitting aerials, but they're a little bit better at challenging wolves. And honestly, I'm kind of happy to see the Kirby, because I think this is a little bit more of a practiced character of Danbi's than the Pikachu, maybe one that speaks to his soul a little bit more. I think Kirby's one of those picks where he's like, I want to play one of the best characters, so I'm gonna pick up Pikachu. But Kirby is a character that I feel like I watched Danbi play and I feel like, yeah, he belongs with this character.
It's definitely one of those times where, like, normally if somebody says something like that, you're like, oh, how dare you insult him like this? But you can already see that Danbi's combo game is so much more assured with Kirby versus with the Pikachu, where you expect Pikachu to do 50-60% of the time, and that wasn't just happening. So Danbi's decided, okay, I'm going to go to the character that I'm more comfortable with, and on FD as well, it's going to be a lot harder for AZ to handle himself in that grounded game against Kirby.
That back air is so potent, getting confirm off of the Trump into the KO. Kirby's still sitting at a terrifying percent though. 77 is not healthy against Wolf, as Kirby anything can take you out, but I mean, just like in the matchup against Pikachu, Kirby has great edge guarding potential and really can put Wolf in really awkward spots off stage that can end his stock just as early as Kirby was naturally guided.
We see AZ going to a lot of lasers right there, just trying to catch Danbi using that final cutter in an unfavorable spot. But either way, Danbi's able to get himself back on stage, and he hasn't had a problem doing that. We talked about how Kirby has a lot of good edge guarding tools, but he's pretty edge guardable himself right there. However, AZ picking up once again on that air-to-air game. You mentioned it at the end of that game one, that Wolf is built to be a dog fighter for a reason. I mean, one, he's a dog, two, he's a fighter, but also to have that aerial combat. It's what he is so good at with that aerial drift, but off stage, yeah, exactly what Danbi's been looking for.
The second verse, same as the first, simple and clean. Just grab that ledge, pop your opponent off, and come through with a back air, big swing. And honestly, I would love to see Kirby with an eye patch right now. Grab that blaster, go to town, but I wasn't quite able to get that swallow, so you might have to go for another setup later. Still, to look at the disparity in damage, you can tell the comfort level difference. Crouching under these lasers. There we go. Immediately, once the lasers stop working, you see AZ jump, and Danbi meets him there with a back air. He is so much more ready for this one.
And you can see that AZ is like way too comfortable right now, going forward, throwing out aerials, not waiting for his time to strike. He's trying to force his own game plan, but unfortunately, that's not the way to stop Danbi from playing his own. He's going to toss the Wolf off stage to try and get a KO, but at this point, yeah, Danbi's just one more of those ledge trump back airs away from sealing out the game too.
Now, he was able to make it back to the stage, though, is able to fight his way back onto the center with a dash attack. 54 isn't normally what you would consider to be unhealthy, but for Kirby, honestly, we're a down smash, forward smash away.
Yes, the laser!
There we go, yeah, now we've got eye patch Kirby coming through, he's got lasers. Oh, getting clipped by that recovery, so we're going to see AZ make it back to the stage, wondering what he's going to be able to do with it.
But it's the forward air on stage that's going to be able to close it out. Danbi looking nice in that game too, and like you were saying, it's the damage output that made all the difference. In game one, Danbi really couldn't get any combos going with the Pikachu, and in game two, this time it was AZ that couldn't get any combos going with the Wolf.
Right, and Kirby's not like the easiest combo weight. He's a floaty character. He dies really early, so you don't have to hit him a bunch, but Wolf really couldn't get a lot going on. AZ didn't have those big combos that we saw some against Pikachu. And conversely, like you were saying, as Pikachu, Danbi got maybe one or two hits, and that's not what you want to see as Pikachu. You want to see yourself looping the other person consistently, but online, that's really hard to do. And we saw AZ consistently being able to get out of it. So pull out the Kirby, make the a little bit more consistent cheddar.
And I think that it also comes down to the character matchup. You're talking about how, you know, Kirby's a little bit more of a floaty character. The combos are a little bit more difficult in some places. And I think especially the problem for AZ's game plan lies in the fact that against a floatier character like Kirby, a lot of your reliable combos are going to come off of grabs. You know, that down throw dash attack is going to be reliable for a large amount of percent, and then even at the higher percents, you can get something off of your up throws or get them far off stage with the forward throws, the back throws, the down throws, anything like that, right? And it's just so hard to grab Kirby. And we saw a lot of AZ throwing out aerials to try and get the combo started, but that is also difficult.
Right, I know from experience playing against Zan really early on in this game, if you want to fair a crouching Kirby, you still have to go for that fair so incredibly low if you want it to connect, or sometimes it'll just whiff entirely. Now we're already seeing the blaster Kirby come through again, 55 damage, trying to cover it with the blaster. It's just a beautiful start again for Danbi. We're going to see if AZ can adapt to this, maybe find a better answer. Another thing, you know, Wolf very clearly wins this matchup, or the worst case scenario for him, it's even, right? But you'd have to argue quite a bit for me to be. But Kirby definitely doesn't struggle. This isn't one of his worst top tier matchups. What are the things he benefits from?
All right, I think we're back. Sorry about that, y'all. A little bit of technical difficulties on my end here, but yeah, getting back into the game. What were you saying, Ryan?
No, I'm saying like Wolf doesn't have the greatest ground speed. Normally, that's one of Kirby's biggest downfalls. Is not a lot of ground speed or air speed. Wolf has air speed, but doesn't have a lot of ground speed. So Kirby actually doesn't feel nearly as slow, and the blaster doesn't really make up for it as much in this matchup because Kirby's able to play around it so well that you actually get big access to Kirby's normals that usually are kind of locked away behind opponents' mistakes, whereas in this matchup you really do get to play Kirby sometimes aggressively, but you know, cat and mousey more than anything.
And again, you have to be very careful with how you're applying that aggression. I think that's why we're seeing so much of AZ actually getting to build up damage in this game, is the overextension and believing that you have more reach than you do and playing the little puffball. But 76%, Danbi's done a good job of clawing the stock back, but it's the pickup on the jump once again. This is how AZ has gotten every single stock against him.
But still, though, 87% lead is not one that I'm unhappy with here. Again, finding that Swallow is going to get more of that eye patch action. I just love to see Kirby with an eye patch on there.
You know what I like to see even more, actually, is these angles that AZ has been recovering with. He's consistently putting himself in a place where if Danbi tries to sit at the ledge for that ledge trump, he gets flipped by that Firewolf and gets knocked away, and that gives AZ an easy way. You see that right there could have hit Kirby as well, but the parry this time saving Danbi, who is actually in a scary spot right now.
Right, he's only sitting at 47 at the time, but man, that really could have been curtains. Managed to make his way back on stage. AZ wasn't able to fully capitalize on the situation. And now, again, a stock lead falling fair. Finds a tech chase.
Oh my goodness!
Already up at 68%. And on stage, Danbi didn't recognize fast enough. He thought he would grab the ledge. So that wasn't a true punish. But man, that's the damage output. Slow to react again on the trump there, maybe expecting AZ to have a buffer since two of the stocks have already gone to the same setup. This time he's just going to go for it, and this time AZ is ready with the buffer, doesn't fall into the trump there.
Yeah, problems right there trying to challenge. And Kirby coming up with the final cutter, nearly getting it with that dash attack. Danbi, though, man, he is holding on to that second stock so long.
Ooh, barely doesn't crouch under the fair. Good fast fall by Danbi. That way he doesn't fall victim to the up smash from Wolf. Down throw is not going to do it, but it does send him very far off stage. He's going to have to recover awkwardly. Manages again. Great angles, but what a beautiful freeze frame. The happiest Kirby I've ever seen wearing that eye patch going for the neutral air.
He's like, all right. I finally won a game, even though it was 2 games in a row now for Danbi.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually so well set up by the parry. It let Danbi go into an option select where when he realized he missed the ledge trump, he goes, oh, well, he's been DIing into the stage anyways to avoid the back air, so it'll probably be a neutral getup, and then was instantly ready to cover with the nair. So fantastic play at the ledge all game by Danbi. The moment that he switched to the Kirby, it seems like it's just been impossible for AZ to not only start getting big damage, get the combos rolling, but also just to be able to play the game in general.
Oh yeah, I mean, the fact that Kirby is a character, we've talked about this, you and me, multiple times. Kirby and Incineroar, I feel like, are in a really similar spot in that they are characters with phenomenal normals and just really, really good moves, but stuck behind awful character properties where they're just too slow oftentimes to in a play to win environment. If the other person just doesn't want to play against you, they won't. You can't chase them and you just lose on time, right? But in a situation like this where Wolf actually doesn't have the best tools to guarantee that he's gonna be able to play lane because laser doesn't function as well against Kirby, and Kirby can maybe take it, turn that against you. He doesn't have the fastest ground movement in the world, and his aerial approaches are honestly not what you want to go for against Kirby because you'll give him opportunities to anti-air you. it gives Kirby an opportunity to play the game with his phenomenal tools that he's been given.
I mean, and that's sort of like a recurring archetype within this game, right? Is that, boy, this character would be so good if it wasn't so easy to just not let them play the game, right? That also, I feel like, applies to a lot of the heavyweights, where you look at them and you go, oh, wow, they have some crazy tools, like Donkey Kong, for example, right? It's like the character actually has some crazy tools, but I can also combo them until 90%, and then they have to be afraid of me killing them.
Right. And sometimes it's a situation in those characters like ledge trapping. They just don't get to play the game once they get knocked off once because they don't have options to get off the ledge.
Yeah, God forbid you're playing Donkey Kong trying to get back on the stage against a Roy.
No. It could not be me.
Like, I'm sorry, bro, but at that point you go, different character time. Maybe.
Getting ledge trapped by Roy, I'm built different. Built as a different character on the character select screen.
I'm literally about to be built different. So we're going to Pokemon Stadium 2 again for Game 4. I'm wondering if AZ has just taken some time to think about, how he can try and force Danbi to play the game. If you can't, normally, like you were saying, that button is usually just the B button for Wolf. You press the laser and you tell your opponent you have to play the game. But not so against Kirby, just because he can normally duck under those lasers. So if AZ's sticking with the Wolf, then he's going to have to figure out a way to goad Danbi into coming towards him. And right off the bat, actually go into a couple of lasers just to stick him back.
Yeah, 2 quick lasers, 17%. That's beautiful lead territory. Playing around these platforms until he can find a big opening, but that is now lasers in Danbi's court and damage in his favor as well. Gonna see if he can get this ledge trap. Lingering neutral air is great for covering neutral getup.
I like the up smash though right there to punish that imperfect recovery from Danbi, who tries to go to the laser himself, but AZ is ready for the counterplay as well. See right there though, he panicked a little bit, realizing that he gave up center stage and didn't want Danbi to push him into a corner, get ledge trapped again. And Danbi punished that, and in an ironic turn of fate, put him off the stage at the ledge.
Ooh, doesn't quite have time to get the forward tilt all the way out before it gets clipped by that final cutter. Kirby makes it back on stage. Great utilization of that extra double jump that Kirby has. He has multiple extra double jumps in order to skirt disadvantage.
Ooh!
That was nasty and clean at the same time.
Well, what the? I mean, like, seriously, to go for that against a character like Kirby, who is so small and so floaty, that kind of thing tends to be very uncertain against the floaty characters, especially if they're not heavy, which Kirby is not.
And we really hadn't seen anything like Wolf Flash combos out of AZ yet, so I don't know if he had them. Not every Wolf does have those unlocked, But that was definitely nice to see, picking it up, giving him a stock lead now that he hasn't had since the Pikachu game.
And look at this, now AZ goes, thank God, I can finally not have to approach the Kirby. Right there, it looks like that final cutter actually shield poked, which would not surprise me, but either way, 86% going very deep and trying to get Danbi on the spike afterwards. Instead, he's going to be taken up to the skies with that seismic toss and going on to that next stock.
Up throw, slamming you back up onto the highest platform available. He is going to even up the stock count, but the percent count is so bad in AZ's favor. Danbi's really got to work if he wants to say, ooh,
try it again!
And barely avoided. That's going to be a swallow. That's going to be a laser. Maybe Danbi can play back with this, but of course, not only does Wolf have the laser, but he can counterplay his own laser with his reflector. So Kirby laser is really just an option coverage tool when Wolf's in the air.
And AZ, like we've mentioned, does have to go to the air pretty often to get most things started, but that dash attack was the perfect transition to what I'm talking about, as he's able to get the grab for the kill as well. He hasn't had to go to the air so much in this game because Danbi is not running away from him. He does not have to, or he does not get to, rather. AZ doesn't have to approach the Kirby in this situation, and therefore, when Danbi makes a mistake, AZ gets to strike and not the other way around.
Yeah, man, AZ just playing this beautifully, only really going in when he sees the opportunity, trying to wait for Danbi to throw a move first. Because Kirby definitely has these weird hurtbox shifting properties, like that dash attack maybe would have connected if he wasn't ducking, but the way that body blocking works in this game is kind of funky.
And Kirby can become an IHOP menu item if you so choose. Right up close with the... I really love that from AZ right there. Would have punished some crazy aggression there from Danbi if he decided, okay, he's giving me some center stage, maybe I push for more. The opportunity didn't come up there, but AZ, man, I mean, this is looking like he's down to his last stock. Without the rage, the stock may be a little bit harder to come by for him. Danbi's got a real shot to bring this back.
Definitely, but I mean, this is AZ's game to lose. He really does need to tighten up the screws a little bit. Just clutch out this last game, bring it up to a game 5. if he wants a chance here. But oh, that tech opportunity forward smash isn't going to do it, but it puts him off stage. Laser covering.
He got hit by the laser.
That was a brilliant opportunity there from Danbi. I love the idea that he went down for the forward air, because once he got hit by the laser, like you saw, he had no choice but to recover low. So Danbi barely missed it. Great recovery from AZ to avoid it. Just getting the dash attack in time so he doesn't get forward tilted, but the back air trade comes through for AZ, taking this to a game 5.
And that was, I mean, honestly, even though Danbi started really bringing that back with some big combos, the reason that AZ was able to stay in the game is he realized Danbi is just looking for me to choose something and then react to it. He is clearly locked in the zone right now, so I'm going to slow it down. You saw that once he got the moment to land on stage, he just walked away from the Kirby, waited for Danbi to choose something, and then hit him back and said that it was something to snap him out of the zone and say, return to neutral, get out of that flow. And that is why he was able to bring it back, is because Danbi wasn't able to carry that all the way to another stock. And that's something that is very important to be able to recognize as a player, is to see when your opponent is clearly outplaying you and say, how do I get them out of that area? Your first step to outplaying your opponent is to make sure that they cannot outplay you.
Yeah. Remove the comfort. When they're not comfy, then they have to think a lot more about all of their actions. And the more they're thinking about their actions, the less they're able to focus on doing them immediately. You know, there's a little bit of a stutter in their step.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you have to do, especially against a character like Kirby, right, who doesn't have the mobility to just see you walking away and then chase you down. It can be really difficult if you're going up a character like Fox or Sonic, right, where they have such high movement speed that even if you do try and slow them down, you still have to be on your toes. Whereas against Kirby, we've talked about it, not a very fast character, and not with a lot of range either. You just kind of get out of that threat zone and stay out of the bubble. And then the moment that they have to calm down and their aura kind of goes away, then you go, all right, now I can go back to playing the game.
Yeah. They'll let them cool their jets a little bit. I do think we should still see Kirby on this game 5. I'm curious about the stage choice. I feel like the long flat stages are pretty good for Kirby in these matchups. I definitely don't want to see something up close and personal. I feel like that benefits Wolf more than anything. Yeah, so I feel like it was a really interesting ban on Smashville. FD makes sense to me to ban that one, but Kalos is what I would expect from what's left there. The longest, flattest stage you got, so you can play with all the space that you have, get those bigger blast zones, so Kirby's not going to drop as easily, and maybe get some edge guards here and there, and Kirby isn't really worried about having to get those early kills on the opponents. Plus, his smash checks are just so strong. Backers just strong.
I think that AZ right there, like with the Smashville ban, we might be reading too much into this, but I think that you kind of want to play to your own win condition, which is if I get the lead on Kirby, I get to run away, and you don't get that space on Smashville. Whereas if you get taken to a bigger stage like Kalos, yeah, it will be harder to take that lead against the Kirby, and, you know, God forbid if you go down a significant margin, but if you get the lead, basically, these two are playing a game of chicken of who gets that first stock.
Yeah, and then the other line of thought is, well, if I'm on Smashville, there's way less stage, which means there's more opportunities for my opponent to throw me off stage. That could be really bad for Wolf as well. So I totally understand now, thinking through. Yeah, I maybe wouldn't be my favorite thing against Kirby in the worst circumstances, but either way, you know, the stage is fine for both characters. Wolf really doesn't have a stage on the select screen that he doesn't like.
Yeah. No, Wolf he's a very adaptable character, and he can play pretty much anywhere that, you know, you ask him to. But again, that goes to one of those situations where you just want to stop your opponent from getting comfortable, but boy, Danbi's got to be feeling good, getting that stock out of the way in less than a minute. That's something we haven't seen a whole lot of.
Definitely feeling comfortable as AZ tried to go for a really tricky Wolf flash, but Danbi was not phased by it, ready to block it, definitely ready to come through with a punish as well. But he couldn't be eating the stock right now here. Then launched in the air by Wolf at these percents is dangerous. I'm just feeding on the ground, but who knows for how long. It's at 92.
Oh, wow, actually getting the up tilt off of that knockdown. The trips from Kirby, man, they're so brutal. Danbi does get the ledge trump, but doesn't get anything off of it. AZ is able to get the buffer in time, but playing with this deficit right now, you can see just how much that's affecting AZ's game plan. Even when he's on the ledge here, he feels like he's got to pick something a whole lot quicker, and he quickly gave up stage right there, trying to put pressure on Danbi in the corner.
There you go, forward air, catching him, trying to punish the whipped up tilt, but it's really, really hard to get out of shield real quick and punish something as low lag as that.
Be going onto that top platform. It's something that AZ is going to have to think about as this game goes on. It's just game 5, so he doesn't have a whole lot of time to play with, and that's something that unfortunately you do have to do as Wolf sometimes when your opponents get out of those combo zones. Just start throwing out your smash attacks. They're pretty safe in general, but he was a little bit too close to Danbi in that situation. Does finally land the up smash he was looking for there, but he's down a clean stock at this point.
Down a clean stock. Danbi taking his time to come back down with it. Wants to maybe a mental reset, saying, yeah, you know, the fair got a little bit too aggressive.
I'm not a big fan of that. Seeing that Danbi, you know, had that inhale behind him, and he got very greedy trying to go for something huge off of that, when you could easily say, all right, I can get an up smash and great positioning at that by just, you know, up smash out of shield on the inhale and then juggle the Kirby. That's something that you're totally able to do as well.
For sure. Yeah, Kirby is really floaty, and with those multiple jumps can be hard to catch the landing with the right timing, but eventually he does have to come down, and it's kind of a bit of a sitting duck when he does. Speaking of sitting duck, he is standing and ducking under these lasers, still not going to let that get to him. Doesn't have to approach.
Oh, so you're sitting? You're sitting and ducking?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Danbi's whole game plan right now. You can see that he's really only going to approach if AZ goes completely on the defensive, like into that shield or running away, shooting a laser. Just something that we've seen a lot from him in these situations where I feel like AZ does really need to knock out that stock. He does need to kind of put the chips on the table eventually, or, you know, if you fold or check every single round, you're never going to win a hand of poker.
Ooh, finally connecting that Nair into the Wolf Flash, taking it to the last stock, but
he raised him right there. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, so deep off stage. Gonna go for the high Wolf Flash, and Danbi kind of scattered out, but he doesn't get the combo to the down smash.
Just barely missed out, not in the frames. AZ once again tossing the Kirby off the stage, looking for something bigger than the bread and butter. And in that case, you know, it's difficult. We've seen for Wolf to edgeguard the Kirby, barely able to hang on with that DI.
Does get back onto the stage, does avoid the ledge trap, and eventually lands with the aerial back on Kirby's shield and on behind him as well. That's the worst place you want to be against Kirby, because he comes through with a quick back arrow shield, and that's going to be the end of the game, end of the set, and Danbi moving on to play against Rated Rudy.
3-2 for the Kirby, and yeah, going up against the Greninja next in the losers quarters, and yeah, like you're saying, man, Kirby's kind of counter to what you would normally think in the game, where normally, hey, if you land behind somebody's shield, their options are so limited, but you're actually opening up Kirby's best options if you hit his shield and try and cross him up, because that back air is brutal, and that's kind of the move that defined that whole set in a way.
Definitely. We saw, I mean, 2 stocks got dropped pretty quick to ledge trumpet to back air.